Hello, and welcome to another
Hello,
episode of.
the Super Data Brothers Super Data Show,
That's right, I am Ryan,
and I am Eric.
and you, and we are two real life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And have we got a good one for you today,
Sure, we have
folks?
a good show. We've a great show. If you don't have connection problems, Ryan. But I'm so excited for today's show because it is the announcement of our new season, and we've got a pre-recorded interview with Zhamak, which should also be very good. So it'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's right. This is a happy to be here for season 5. Now, I am located in Prague right now, and we have that post-communistic internet, and so
Hmm.
we'll see. Hopefully, things hold up here. But really excited to bring you this show today in the interview with Zhamak. I'm particularly excited because I think she is. There's kind of data meshes in this place where it's a great idea. Lots of people were very excited for it. And now we've reached the stage where it's implementation. It's like implement time. And a lot of people ran into problems when it came time to implement data mesh. And so, what Zhamak's working on at Nextdata, I think, is the solution to that. And it's really exciting to hear her articulate that as she kind of moves into the stage from, hey, I'm an author to now I'm a founder. Really looking forward to sharing that with you. Now, Eric, is my internet really horrible?
It's fine. We can hear the audio fine. You're jerking every once in a while, but
All right.
it's workable.
Cool. Well, then we'll go. But listen, before we go any further, two things. One, this is a live show, folks. So if you let us know where you are watching from, we will shout you out, get your comments, questions, and reactions into the chat. And we are happy to give you a shout out. And two, we want to thank the season's sponsor, Good Data. Two things I want you to check out here. And you can get them both through the QR codes you see on the screen. These are both papers by former Super Data Brothers guest Donald Farmer, who is like an industry luminary. If you don't know who Donald is, you should. But one covers the topic of analytics as code. This is really, I think, the future of BI, especially now that AI will be generating a lot of the front end. What does AI generate? It generates code. And this analytics as code paper walks you through the concepts of why analytics as code is such an advantage to your data practice. And then the second one talks about the analytics lake. This is an emerging architecture designed to kind of be the service layer for AI and analytics, where, because look, what we're seeing with AI is that agents are generating like 100x the number of queries that humans generate. And so that traditional data warehouse infrastructure is just not geared for that. And that's where the analytics lake comes into play. And so check out those two papers, and thank you to Good Data for being our season sponsor. So Andy Brown says, I liken the data mesh concept to the concept of chargebacks. That's an interesting comment, Andy. I'm curious how the adoption of, okay, you liken the adoption of data. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious what you mean by that. Why don't you explain it further in the comments there, and we'll read them out. Okay. So, Eric,
Yes.
let's unveil the season quickly, and then we'll get to Zhamak's interview.
Sure.
All right. So obviously today on the Super Data Brothers Show, January 15th, we have our interview with Zhamak Dehghani, creator of Data Mesh and founder of Nextdata. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking to Colleen Tartow. Colleen is one, super cool, and two, Colleen has a very interesting career that I really want to talk to her about because she has a ton of experience in both startup and the corporate world. So we're going to go deep. This is like a data career advice episode. Why would you choose one or the other, and what's better for you? That's what we're going to get into when we're talking with Colleen next week. Then the week after, all-time great Super Data Brothers Show guest Shantona Tully is going to join us to talk about building data platforms in the real world. So Shantona, last time she was on the show was at Upsolver, which is an iceberg startup. Now she's one of the heads of data platform at Unity. And so we're going to get an update for her on what it's like to move into a role like that, an operational role, and what she's learned running the data platform at a huge company like Unity. Then we're going to have Bill Inman and Roger Watley to talk about their new book, Stone to Silicon. This is the insider story of how tech was built. So if you don't know who Bill is the creator of the data warehouse. We all owe our careers to Bill. Ultimately, it kind of all comes back to him. And then Roger Watley is one of the original founders of Apple. And so they're going to be joining us to talk about kind of the story of tech, where it comes from, and the evolution of the tech industry. Then we're going to welcome Anna Bergevin back to the show from Children's Mercy Hospital. She is, I think, the leading voice in data product and data product management in our industry. If you are curious about data products, this is the episode to watch. Anna is the expert. Her Substack's incredible. Go follow it. And I trust her more than anybody on this topic. Then David Langer, who recently published his book about combining using Python and Excel. And we're going to talk about why Excel and Python is the most powerful data tool ever conceived. Dave is a super cool dude, and he's going to be and we really look forward to having him, especially those of you who are in BI. We know that this topic is going to, your heads are going to explode when we talk about how people should be using Excel for data analysis and data presentation. So we're really looking forward to that. Then Aaron Wilkerson is from the Director of Data Governance at Carhartt and former fellow Detroit Bro is going to be joining us to talk about what no one ever told you about advancing your data career. Aaron is kind of the data career guru at this point, and he's going to have a lot of great advice on how to figure out what your path is, and once you have that path identified, how to walk down it. And then Veronica Durgan will be joining us. I really am excited to talk to Veronica about really the explosion of new tooling that we have around data and AI to help demystify terms like ontologies, semantics, people talking about knowledge graphs, and what there's this new term everybody's throwing around. What is it? It's like a tongue-in-cheek context graph. So all the old graph heads are like, there's no such thing as a context graph. And then all the people who just heard about this concept last week and are now experts are out there using the term context graph. It's quite funny. So Veronica will help set the record straight for us. And they're going to be joined by Jacob Mattson from MotherDuck. I don't know if you've seen what Jacob's doing with MotherDuck MCP and Claude Code, but it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous even. The stuff that they're able to do, I mean, it's really crazy. Like, he used Claude Code. He provided the prompt. He was asking it to make a dashboard, and he said, do it in the style of Edward Tufte. And it just that one prompt made it look so slick and professional. It was unbelievable. So we're going to have Jacob joining us to talk about the next generation databases, MCP, AI, and all the cool stuff that's going on. And then we'll have two surprise guests we're not ready to unveil yet. And then finally, Data Fool's Day to wrap up the season, giving you kind of an overview of the season and the greatest hits of what we did on Super Data Brothers Season 9. So super excited and glad that you could join us here for season 5 of Super Data Brothers. Eric, what do you think? I think this might be our strongest season lineup yet.
It's a pretty good lineup, and we've got Bill Inman along with one of the original founders of Apple. That's going to be.
I know.
I'm going to brag about that to people.
I know. Well, Bill was on our show last season, so go check out that episode if you haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. I guess he took a liking to us. I don't know, but he reached out to me and said, "Please, can I come on your show?"
Really? He must have liked your show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I know he was like, "Can I come back on to talk about the new book?" And you don't say no to Bill Inman.
No.
For many reasons, not the least of which is he was an awesome guest.
Yeah, he was a great guest.
All right, so that is season 5 of Super Data Brothers, and Michael, I'm glad to have you back. Michael's one of our all-time most loyal guests. I think Michael shows up to every episode. So welcome back, Michael. And listen, if this is your first time here, we do this every Thursday when we're in season at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So we just outlined the schedule for you. We'll be here. Today's episode is a pre-recorded interview with Zhamak because she's very difficult. She's not very difficult. She's very busy. And so, but otherwise it's live. So come live, bring your questions for our data experts, and you will get them answered live. That's one of the great things about the Super Data Brothers show. And so with that said, let's set the stage for the interview with Zhamak. So I did this interview about a month ago. And really what I was trying to get at is, if you look at data mesh as a concept was on fire before kind of AI came and stole its thunder a little bit. And I've talked to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who have been involved in data mesh implementations, and the story always seems to be pretty similar. We started out, we had 1 domain, 2 domains, things were going great. But as we kept expanding, our underlying technology had a hard time supporting the concept. So that's where a lot of it's run aground. And for that reason, Zhamak actually founded her own company, Nextdata. And so I really wanted to get to the bottom of what is she doing at Nextdata and how does it address the problems that data mesh ran into on technologies like Snowflake and Databricks. She has this concept called the autonomous data product. And that's when you first hear that term, it may not make any sense. Like, what is she talking about? And so really my goal with this interview was to drill into that and say, like, what does your company, what does Nextdata do? What is the autonomous data product, and what problems with data mesh does it solve? And I think, you'll see she does a great job of explaining it. So
Yep.
Without further ado, we're going to play the video. We'll come back on the other side, talk about it a little bit, wrap it up, and then close the show. So as you're watching this, get your questions, comments, and reactions into the chat. When we come back, we'll read your comments and discuss it. So Eric, why don't you go ahead and hit play?
And then a few shouts. Hi, everyone joining from Cape Town. First time, welcome, Roland. And then Roblox Legend DW. So either we have a young person joining us or a bot. That's all.
Nice.
All right, so let's.
Zhamak Dehghani, welcome to the Super Data Brothers Show.
Hi, Ryan. Great to be here.
It's and hello to your puppy as well.
I know, right? Can you hear him? I have to let him know.
It's all good. It's all good. This is a dogs and kids friendly show, so don't worry about it.
It's hearing your voice. So if he does disco, it's okay. It's okay, buddy. If he doesn't stop, I will let him out.
Okay. So thanks for joining me here today. I'm really excited to have you to give kind of an update on, data platform, data mesh, everything like that. Can you, for anybody who doesn't know, can you give us a brief background of who you are and your work at Nextdata?
Sure. Hi, I'm Zhamak Dehghani. I've been in the tech industry for over 25 years, wore different hats. Perhaps almost the last decade, my focus has been on data management. I created the topic of data mesh. I suppose I defined and reinvigorated the topic of data products. And the last 3 years or so, I have been acting as the founder and CEO of Nextdata. We are a technology company and have launched a product to really solve the issues with data management that data mesh try to solve as a paradigm to address with the technology. Nextdata OS is our platform, and that's been my focus.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to dive into that and help people understand exactly what Nextdata OS does and how it's different from both the paradigms of the past and the technologies they may be used to. And I think a good way to kick it off, given your background in data mesh, is with a question I got from Joe Reese, who wants to know what's your thinking on data mesh in 2026 and beyond, and why have you adopted this term autonomous data products instead of data mesh as kind of your tagline and as the focus of Nextdata?
Of course. Maybe I give a little bit of answer in terms of the journey and the purpose of data mesh. When I introduced data mesh, its purpose was to address the plateauing of data productivity. There was a very somewhat overused or often used chart that I shared with the audience, which was showing as you increase the ambition of organizations in terms of data usage on an x-axis of a diagram, the speed of innovation on the y-axis plateaus. demonstrating, and this was really the result of empirical studies and experiences working with a lot of organizations back in 2017, 2018, that as organizations were becoming more ambitious around their data applications and across the business, as they increased the number of sources of data that they wanted to adopted, whether people call it data mesh or not, the federated approach or decentralized approach to data management becomes still number one kind of data strategy that I see globally. Nobody is starting and saying, hey, I want to centralize absolutely everything. So that has been, I think, successful in terms of opening people's minds and hearts to this idea of, instead of scaling up, scaling out their operations. However, what was evident and has been evident, that the success is not really there, despite the global following of data products, which is one of the principles of data mesh, self-serve data platforms, which was another principle, computational governance, like all those 4 principles that I put in data mesh have been widely adopted and widely supported by technology vendors and consultancies have been kind of attempting to build them. Despite all of that, if you really dig in, we don't see wild and kind of ubiquitous success. And if you dig deeper into that, which was something that I saw, the writing of it I saw on the wall back in 2021, 2020, when I was in trenches, 2020, when I was in trenches implementing that kind of paradigm, what was evident was that that there was a missing catalyzing technology. Not missing in terms of the raw ingredients of where to store data and how to compute data and where to catalog data. Those raw ingredients or raw elements existed, but a technology that would collapse this very fragmented data stack into a model of a unit of data value that can then really enable that federated creation, reduce that friction from ingestion to value to serving, to achieve that goal of bending the curve of data productivity. That catalyzing technology wasn't there. So the reason I've shifted now my focus, because I'm an extremely pragmatic and extremely stubborn person. So I'm at this until I really feel, truly be able to measure that bend of productivity can be implemented. So the second problem you have to solve after you try to build a solution suboptimally with the technology that you have is abstract and create a new abstraction, create a new automation layer that is natively built for that mode of access, that mode of using data. So then the shift is not because data mesh is not valid or the principles are irrelevant or none of that. Is that we know what the principles are, we know what the goal is. Now, how do we get there? And we have 2 paths ahead of us. Either continue using the data stack that we've had and frankly hasn't really changed much in terms of its structure for a long time, either continue using that and try to duct tape it together into this potentially new experience of using data as a product, serving data as a product, which has not been successful at scale. And this is, again, based on talking and working with hundreds of companies, or really think fresh again and bring a very different perspective into what does the technology stack look like, particularly at the layer of experience. And by experience means developers building things and consumers using data products, right? Developers building data products, consumers using data products. What does that new experience look like to make this realistic? So that's why the shift of focus.
I think that makes perfect sense. I'm sure. Well, I witnessed once your book came out and it really caught on, that suddenly every vendor in the data space was a data mesh vendor, or at least claimed to be able to support it. Whether you're a database or a BI tool or an ETL tool, there was some data mesh angle they were trying to take. And it became clear to me pretty quickly that the existing tooling we had was built for a different philosophical approach to data. And yeah, you could do some of what was described in data mesh on kind of a pilot level, right? But when it came time to scale it, I didn't see a lot of success. And so let's talk about this idea of I'm really fascinated by product thinking in general, and in particular what it means in data, and this idea of the autonomous data product. And I will tell you, I've been involved in some truly Sisyphusian attempts to define what a data product is. And so we don't have to try to do that necessarily on the interview today, but I'm really interested in this autonomous piece. What does autonomy bring to the idea of a data product that makes it able to work in this sort of decentralized, domain-oriented architecture?
Yeah. So I can answer this question by jumping right into defining what autonomous is and define it. But if you allow me, and I want to get there, but if you allow me, maybe let me do that. Let me answer that. And maybe we can then do a little bit of okay, what was the intention behind data product? What happened? And then why the autonomous as a new adjective added. So autonomous, maybe just super quick. It means that an entity can operate and achieve its objective, complete its purpose and task without intervention, without intervention by other humans, without intervention by other tasks or other systems. It can autonomously be in control of its full life cycle and full operation to achieve its outcome, right? So it's like autonomy with purpose, not autonomy. And if you use the, autonomous cars example, the autonomous cars have a purpose to get to a destination, and to get to that destination without causing any casualties along the way. They have autonomy to use and derive a whole bunch of technologies, like use sensors and lidars and AI applications and digital maps and all of that, and cameras and to autonomously get to their destination without much intervention, right? So in this particular case, the concept of autonomous data product, the job of a data product, again, as I had defined it, was producing, serving self-discoverable, governable, kind of governed data, high quality data to a variety of consumers in their native form. So if you think about what goes into producing and serving governed, high quality, discoverable data, there are a lot of pieces. And again, you have two paths to do this. You have the path of non-autonomous way, which is what we have done so far. We have the path of saying, well, to get there, you need to have some people to go and ingest the data with a bunch of pipeline. You need to have a whole bunch of other humans going build a medallion architecture pipeline. You need to have some other people to go and catalog that data in a catalog. You need a bunch of other people to make sure the semantic layer is built on top. So that at the end of it, you have some sort of a artifact that has these tentacles to its semantics somewhere, to its quality somewhere else, and maybe the pipeline runs, maybe doesn't, who knows. That ultimately you find something that is, you can say it's discoverable and is governable, right? So autonomous version of this is that no, you just define whatever the direction of this declaration of this domain-oriented data product is. You just define it. You provide the definitions, the ingredients that define that, and you run it. I mean, it runs itself. You let it run, just like a car. You let it drive. It will run itself. It will produce the data that it needs to produce for a particular domain. Domain centricity has always been there. Focus on semantic has always been there. That doesn't change. It produces the data. It always kind of senses the inputs as they change and make sure that the data is fresh based on its definition. It provides access to that data. It provides all the information real-time live that helps with its observability and discoverability. It can be addressed. So there is a lot then it provisions the infrastructure that it needs. So all of those activities that had been done in different phases of data supply chain to get to something that is discoverable, usable, then gets collapsed into an automated runtime. So now we're talking about runtime. We're talking about something that has a brain. We're no longer talking about static data with metadata, right? That's the big shift. That is really in charge of its own destiny with its brain and with its kind of this microcontroller that is controlling, just like a car, that is controlling all of the different pieces that it needed to get to its destination, in this case, to provide data in a discoverable, governed way.
So are these, it sounds like you're describing an object that has within, I mean, you think about the data stack and it's like a layer cake, right? And it sounds like you're talking about, let's take a slice of the cake and put it all in one object. So we might have compute, there might be compute, pipelines, catalog, lineage, all this sort of stuff in a single object. How is it able to do all that? And like from a developer's perspective, okay, let's say I want to build an autonomous data product. What is it that I'm actually doing? Am I like defining an end state and it's able to build itself? Is this like a declarative sort of object? How do I work with it?
Sure, it's a very, very, very good question. So I think your visual kind of analogy of a slice of a cake is brilliant. It's exactly that. But how you do it, you need to be like, we have an implementation. So what I'm speaking of is what we have implemented. There might be other ways of implementing this concept. When you first start implementing such a thing, you have to make a decision that this object that is what pieces of that layered stack this object is going to utilize and derive. So for example, compute. So if the data product has a sophisticated ML algorithm or ML model inside it for making some recommendations or predictions as part of its output, then that compute needs to be suitable for running an ML model versus if the compute for the data product needs to be just a SQL warehouse. So it would require compute. So we have to make a decision what technology is in that layer cake is necessary to derive and package in as part of the runtime dependency, just like a car that it needs a camera, but that camera is probably built by a different company, but is integrated into the car and driven by kind of the brain of the car. And then what pieces of this technology needs to be provided by the brain itself? You don't need yet another technology to derive. So that's the very first step, is making that decision. And for us, we were very clear that what we call foundational layers of that stack, that our brain, the brain of this, the kernel of Nextdata OS, that the brain of this kind of slice need to provide. And for us, it was like compute. We would want users to then, and that affects the user experience. So the user, as part of the definition of the data product, they still have to provide the logic or the code that is generating the data, right? It's mostly transforming from some signal input to some new form. So it was compute. So users can choose whatever code that they want to write and package as part of the data product. So it could be Spark, it could be Python, it could be Panda, it could be whatever. It was a storage. So we did not wanted to reinvent the storage, reinvent read or write into storage even. We didn't even want to be in the flow of read and write. So how does the user code read or store the data? So that's storage. It was security, granting access and requesting for access, and all of that we derive. And then also quality, how people want to use different quality tools to do data profiling and so on. We drive that. So that's why we call this an operating system, just like a kernel of an operating system lets an app developer build applications, and then you have system calls to derive different pieces. We kind of drive those technologies. What we then provide out of the box is all of the orchestration, is kind of runtime lifecycle management. It is providing access or redirection of the access, is providing health, enforcing like those quality rules. So there's a lot of orchestration, just like a car that is orchestrating a lot of pieces to make a decision to go right or left. That is what the brain then does. So then how does this all manifest in a developer experience? From a developer perspective, we want them to be very focused on business logic and business modeling, the semantic modeling. So that if a developer starts to produce a data product, let's say it's a case of a greenfield, like they didn't have a pipeline or something that they need to turn into an autonomous data product. It's a new business use case. Often that experience starts with, business wants blah. The business wants to improve the data supply. Their supply chain algorithm to get to reduce some friction, to reduce some costs. And for that, the data that we need, or the gap that we have in the data, is this semantic. We need to know the routes. We need to know the recent maybe time to move data to different shipping centers. I'm just making stuff on the fly. But you almost always you start with some sort of a business use case and you work your way backward. In some cases not, but let's say in this example. And in this example, then the developer needs to think about what are the things they need to think about. I said, okay, how do we represent that data? What kind of questions the business wants to answer? And then what data can sit behind that question? Let's define that semantic in a completely storage agnostic way. It doesn't matter how that data gets served. Again, that's something that brain needs to cope with, is that this multimodality of access. So they find that, okay, I need to now figure out where does that data source for that, producing that data, where does the source comes from? And then how I'm going to, whether it's just a simple aggregation of those sources or whether it's more of a complex logic I have to implement. Then, they define declaratively their sources and the modalities they want to serve, and then they write the code. They write the code in whatever technology they want, and then they package this declaration of a data product, which has a few different aspects to it, such as definition of input and output and quality rules that they want to be governed by. And that semantic model that we've defined is actually quite complete, and it has kind of a lot of pieces into it, more than just this is a storage agnostic shape. It has links to other data products. It has rules that verify what good looks like. It has other the questions that the data can answer. So the questions can be answered by functions or MCP endpoints these days, and tomorrow maybe something else. So it defines the semantic. It writes the code to produce data for that semantic in one canonical mode. And they package that data product by a specification, and they run it. And when they run it, the rest of it, as in provision me the infrastructure that I need, run the data product, orchestrates its input, orchestrates running the contracts. Again, for contracts or quality controls, we run the quality expectations on input, on output. There's a lot. Produce observability metrics out of this data product, produce a single global URL that then I can mail it to anybody, or you can plug itself to whatever discoverability tool you have. There is a lot then goes in at runtime that then that data autonomous data product produces to let the business to use this data.
I think, one of the important things when I think about the questions someone might have, okay, this sounds cool, but how do I actually implement this, is what you're not proposing is, hey, we have this whole new data architecture and your data in Snowflake, you need to ETL it into Nextdata. That's not really what we're talking about at all. It's more of like a new way to package that data and make it available in this kind of domain and product oriented way, right? For downstream consumption. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
and it is accurate, but I will go a little bit further. If the data in the Snowflake is ultimately one of the modalities of storage that you want to serve that data by, first of all, that's just one of the modalities. You might want to actually expose that data on some other storage in a completely different shape, a different encoding, not shape. But if that's the case, the data product is actually in charge of writing those tables. It's not that I've dumped the data. So there's a big mental shift that needs to happen. And that mental shift is from this accessorizing storage and accessorizing data dumps as products versus being in control of what gets written into those storage as part of the product, right? So a lot of the current kind of thinking is that, well, I've got the data in the Snowflake, somehow it made it there. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not right. Maybe there's the quality tool telling me that it's not right, but I don't even know because it's not in the flow of access that is happening or in the flow of creation. It's after the fact. But and now I want to kind of package it as a product, and that's not the case. The case is I need to package the production process of that table in a way that I can then maybe give that access to that table, or maybe give access to something else. Maybe I can stop writing into that table when the quality metrics weren't actually met. There is the whole process of production that then get bundled. And then, of course, it begs the question, so what happens with the tables that already exist? And then how do I package these things as data products? And that's a migration conversation.
Yeah,
that there is no move your data to yet another platform. In fact, one of the claims we make, and we want to be, truthfully, of course, making those claims, is that you don't need to re-platform. As in, you can keep your storage, you can keep your compute, you can keep your security. You probably change your orchestration a lot because there's no concept of pipelining tasks and jobs anymore. There's a packaging of maybe some of those pipeline codes into a data product that self-orchestrates, but you pretty much keep your foundational technology data wherever it is and code whatever it was.
We just have a couple minutes left, and I want to be respectful of your time here. So just kind of some rapid fire things. Someone might be listening to this and say, "Wow, that sounds really interesting, but it sounds really complex and it sounds theoretical." You guys have a product, and I've seen the demos. And can you just kind of describe some of the things you've done to make this easier on people? Like, I know you, for example, have an AI assistant that you can go in there and chat with to help build products. Is that, would that might be an easy place to start if someone's interested in Nextdata?
Yeah, so if someone's absolutely. So we do have a product. This product is really the result of 7 years of R&D, even before I started Nextdata, and now 3.5 years of building it. So that brain that I'm talking about, the kernel that makes a lot of things simpler and hides so much of the complexity, it is a fairly sophisticated piece of code. But that complexity does not need to be externalized to the customers. Again, that one of the principles of our product design has been kind of more human sympathy than mechanical sympathy, as in make things easier for the humans and hide a lot of this complexity knobs that people need to turn underneath the platform. So if people want to get started with Nextdata, there are a few places. Yes, they can get started by building greenfield data products, like off the downstream from their warehouse or lakehouse, or for that more user-facing, agent-facing new use cases that they have, so they can have that last mile set of data products created. And we do have conversational interfaces or agentic interfaces next to AI for start the journey more declarative, like conversationally. There's always code behind. We're not a fundamentally everything as code, everything runs as code. So even if there is a Copilot turns everything into code and so on. So that's kind of one of the principles. But yes, there's Copilot for building these new, maybe net new agent facing or analytics, or these are multimodal data products for new use cases. And then there is also agentic technology to help migrate what you have. We just did a kind of a large scale deployment in the last 6 months that we basically wrapped up hundreds of pipelines that were half running, half not running. Nobody knew what data they had. We basically packaged all of those as the core of it, as global sales and marketing data for a really large organization, as data products that now they're live, they're always running, they always have up-to-date data, they always emit their kind of health information and enforcing quality. And yes, so you can always start with a greenfield or a brownfield. And at Nextdata, we not just support the technology, we also support the full success. So we don't throw a technology at you and say, go figure it out and pay just for the technology. We actually partner with people to walk them through this kind of crawl, walk, run journey of adopting this new, but it's a very, very fast journey. So time to get value needs to be a matter of hours or days, not 6 months or 1 year, which is what we see currently in large organizations.
Yeah, it's been the story of my career right there, Zhamak. So we're out of time. I want to ask one last question. You can answer it very briefly, but I do think it's a good one. This comes from Juha. I got this from Joe Reese's Practical Data Modeling Community Discord group. Are more of our problems on the socio or technical side of socio-technical?
I think they're reinforcing each other. I would say it's equally, they're two reinforcing gears, and they're equally broken because we have a model of data kind of value chain by humans and different roles defined. Like governance is at the end of the value chain, where it needs to be at the beginning of the value chain. It's really dictating what the model is and what the business wants not after the fact. As an example, there are many in that value chain that can be changed. There's a lot of opportunity, and then we have technology that reinforces those behaviors and reinforces the process. So which one you're going to start, this debate of, shall I start changing the process or shall I start changing? You've got to change both at the same time, because I've seen a lot of organizations saying, oh, we've now defined the roles of a data product owner. Great, but your data product owner has no ability to control the life cycle of the product that they're supposed to produce. So I feel that both equally important. Of course, my focus has been on catalyzing technology, always looking for catalysts where the human behavior can be changed more easily, right? Remove the friction for change, and technology is an extremely powerful element that I don't want to kind of trivialize in here, even though it's not the only element. The same way we went from using smartphones and mobile phones with Apple introduction of no keyboard and no stylus mobile phone. I think that's that kind of really technologies that change the experience of users is necessary, and both for the wheels to start moving in a different direction that they've been moving so far.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time here. Thank you for joining me, Zhamak. So where can people keep up with this? Nextdata's website? Where should they keep track of your work?
That's all my work is going to nextdata.com/learnings. So that's kind of where we publish. We have a YouTube channel as well, but I'll continue to talk and continue to publish, and hopefully offer, now with the technology and an approach that comes with it, a different way to
There you go.
Oh, hello.
Jeez.
There we go. This stream. We're gonna be moving off StreamYard, folks. Don't worry. This is
So first of all, fascinating interview with Zhamak. Apologize if the video was choppy. That is a function of our streaming provider. So I promise the edited version is buttery smooth, and we will post it on the YouTube channel independent of this episode. So there'll be a version of it that you can refer to in the future. Yeah. In rewatching that interview, I was particularly struck by her answer to the last question about, are our problems socio or technical, and saying, yes,
Yes,
right.
both.
We had a couple comments, people talking about what she was saying as we were going, but I really want to highlight, Roland Brown's comment here about something similar to infrastructure as code pattern, but data product as code. And I think that's really what it is. The idea is this self-contained object that can contain the data and the metadata in order to serve that data product up. And then the autonomy comes in kind of the intelligence they're building into the platform to detect state changes and that sort of thing, and automatically adapt to those changes. So, it's really, I think it's still kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around, because we're in this tables, we're relational girls living in a relational world, basically. and that's not really what she's proposing. That doesn't go away, right? But like the atomic unit of data is not the table, or I shouldn't say the atomic unit, but the important unit is not the table. It is kind of the data product that defines what is consumed and that is available for humans and AIs to easily find and interact with. Now, let me ask you, Eric, at Michigan State, do you guys talk about this stuff at all?
That's confidential, Ryan. I believe I cannot. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
Yeah, and Roland has a follow-up comment here. He says, in his experience, following this method is great. However, it does require different skills, aspects, tooling. And this is in response to a question about using a medallion architecture to kind of do data mesh. And so I really, that's one thing I wish Zhamak were here to address that, because I think Zhamak would say, a medallion architecture is useful, but it doesn't necessarily encapsulate what she's talking about, or it doesn't give you the full suite of capabilities that you need to realize the data mesh vision. And I think, in my limited experience with it, from what I've seen, I think I would agree. I would like to get Jean-Georges Perrin on the show at some point, although he's hard to pin down, to talk about his experience implementing a data mesh and a domain-oriented data architecture, and what went well and what didn't. And I think in Jean-Georges' experience, the technology was a challenge, but also there was a big challenge culturally. People are used to owning their own data, and their ownership of that data they perceive as one of their values to the company. And when you come and you say, we're going to build this decentralized data structure, where like, yeah, you can still own the data, but anyone can access it at any time and do whatever they want with it. The ability to say, no, you can't connect to that is actually, some people really hold on to that and they don't want to let it go.
Yeah. I will say in the university world, that is definitely true.
Right.
That is definitely true.
And that's where, Zhamak's advice about the socio-technical aspects of data mesh and how to approach those things really comes into play. So I think fascinating interview. I would like to, I'll tell you one thing I want to do is get access to Nextdata and see if we can make a couple videos about it, just kind of helping to explain to people what it is and what it does.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be useful. It would also help me a lot, I think, to go through and learn how to use it a little bit, to help me better understand what it is that Zhamak envisions for the autonomous data product. And so, we'll give that a shot. We'll give that a shot. See if we can get access to it and cut a few videos for you guys. Now, those will not appear during the show, right? This is the show. We also make videos that we just post to YouTube. We don't make a ton of them, but tutorials about how to use different tools or reviews of tools, that sort of thing. You'll see we have one coming up for the BI tool count, which is something that I'm really interested in. So you'll see that on the channel. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn, make sure you go to the link you see below, subscribe to the channel, and then you will get our Nextdata, technical deep dive when and if we're able to produce that. I have to talk to Zhamak and get access to the platform first, and then we can go ahead and see if we can cut that video for you. I think that would be pretty pretty useful for everybody. Michael Dunphy agrees.
Yes.
All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I am in Prague and it is time for dinner. And so, but before we do, I just want to thank our episode sponsor. Eric, do you see the sponsor card in StreamYard that you can add or no?
No, when you disconnected and rejoined, it got rid of it. So
this software is just terrible.
Yes,
it's terrible. I think we're going to move to something else. So
we
give me
need
one
to
second.
find out what the gamer streamers use and just use what they use.
Well,
their streams are great.
They use OBS. That's what they use.
Yeah, and a beefy desktop computer. So
well, I have
maybe
that.
We've got the beefy desktop, so maybe we just need to bite the bullet and spend the time to set it up. Anyway,
I agree. All right, so here we go. We want to thank the episode sponsor, Good Data. 2 papers I want you to check out: Analytics is Code and the Analytics Lake. These are both by Donald Farmer, who is one of our industry's leading lights. Donald did a lot of the early research in database data mining at Microsoft, and then he went to Qlik and built out Qlik's whole self-service strategy over the 2010s. That was all Donald Farmer, and we partnered with him at Good Data to produce these 2 papers. One talking about the concept of analytics as code. I will tell you something. If you don't understand code and APIs and definition files, everything Zhamak just talked about, you are not going to be able to do, because that is a fundamental element of what we see emerging in the data industry, is going back to code and not away from UI, but giving you code options for everything that are honestly more powerful than the UI is. So check that paper out. Also, the Analytics Lake. This is Good Data's AI serving layer. It's really a combination of Apache Arrow, DuckDB, and StarRocks that exists to serve up content to both BI and AI rapidly with great performance and low costs. So, best in class open source technologies, pre-configured, routed together, stitched together for you to relieve the burden that AI is going to cause on your underlying infrastructure. So check out both of those things, and thank you to Good Data for sponsoring this season. Roland Brown says, thanks, great show. Roland, thanks for the great comments you made during the show. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you next week when because this is what we do every week. So if you like this kind of thing, come check it out. Okay. So I think that's it. Make sure to tune in next week, 12 o'clock, same time, same channel, to catch our live conversation with Colleen Tartow. Colleen is super smart, and who knows where the conversation is going to go. I'm really looking forward to it. But we're going to kick it off by getting Colleen's take on data life in startup versus data life in corporate. And then, Eric, you can season in your data life at a university.
Yeah. You take corporate and minus 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure to join us for that. Follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack. And until next time, everybody, we are the Super Data Brothers. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.